We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and
inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die
of diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
for everyone.
And we will live in a world
where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated.
Inside our countries
and between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
Where we replace
what we consume.
Planet where we put back
what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
Where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
Where we restore
and protect
life on land,
the forests,
animals, the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
work together
in partnerships of all kinds
to make these goals a reality
for everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Let's make it happen.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Covestro's Think 30 Youthquake 2021 Summit. My name is Rebecca Lucor, and I'm part of the Sustainability and Corporate Social Responsibility team at Covestro here in the United States. Think 30 is an acronym that stands for transforming, harnessing, innovating, navigating, and collaborating for a purpose-driven, sustainable future by 2030. It's a platform that we created to bring the 17 global United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to our local communities. Basically, it's about turning global thinking into local action, and that's where you all come in. We launched Think 30 as a series of in-person and virtual summits specifically for adults and high school students. Our goal is to bring the goals to your towns and cities to tackle the 17 sustainability issues they outline. And as you just saw in the video, this includes things like ending hunger and poverty, creating good jobs and ensuring good health and well-being for people all over the world. You may be wondering what ending hunger has to do with reversing climate change or creating good jobs for people. But as you'll learn in this session, sustainability is not just one thing. It's actually a comprehensive set of activities designed to improve the long-term viability of our communities. That means if we can improve environmental conditions in a community, it will impact the health and well-being of people who live there, as well as their economic conditions. And if we can remove barriers to education, like poverty and food insecurity, then kids will be more able to fully benefit from even the best education programs. With Youthquake, we're really honing in on goal number 13, which is climate action. And our focus is on inspiring you, the next generation of climate change makers. And you know this week that world leaders are meeting in Glasgow, Scotland at the big climate conference known as COP26. And as they do their work, we're going to introduce you to a number of experts who are working in different fields that are all in one way or another connected to climate action. In these 3 roughly 40-minute Youthquake sessions, you'll meet young climate activists and entrepreneurs whose innovative businesses are tackling climate issues. You'll also find out what kind of climate change related jobs will be available in the very near future, as well as how colleges and universities are building climate action and sustainability into their academic programs and into their actual campuses. And if you haven't heard of it, we'll introduce you to the concept of circular economy and one entrepreneur in particular who's a true pioneer in the field. All of this leads up to Friday, November 5th. COP26 has declared it a Youth and Education Day. We want all of you to share your hopes and concerns about climate with world leaders through social media using the hashtags Think30 and COP26. This is an opportunity for your voices to be heard. And finally, one last reminder. If you haven't already, please make sure you've downloaded the Companion app, which will have supplemental materials about the programs and the people you will hear from. It's very simple. Just search the iTunes Store or Google Play Store for Identify and download the app free of charge. Once you launch Identify, it will prompt you to search for the event. Type in Think30 Youthquake 2021, then select Join and follow the setup instructions. This is how we'll communicate and share updates with you and how all of you can be connected to each other. Please enjoy.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Waite. My job is to develop and implement finance strategies to help solve the climate crisis. I work at the intersection of technology, philanthropy, finance, science, public policy, and communications to ensure that the economy moves away from those activities that harm people and planet towards activities that uplift people and regenerate the planet. My focus is on China, Eurozone economies, and the United States. There are 4 pillars to sustainability that form a foundation for my work: ecological health, economic well-being, social prosperity, and future thinking and planning. Let's dive into each of these 4. The first is environmental or ecological sustainability. The environment is the place that we all rely on for everything: natural resources for food and clothing, shelter, recreation. It's also a unique place in our universe. Earth is a balance of many things. With no carbon dioxide, Earth would be a frozen sphere. With 200 to 300 parts per million of carbon dioxide, it's a pleasant place for human beings. With more than that, it's difficult to sustain our ecosystems. Now, there are careers that focus on reducing pollution, creating zero waste, circular systems. These can be found in virtually every sector, from doing no harm in healthcare to designing electric planes and aviation. The second pillar is the economy. It can be said that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. The creation and exchange of goods and services can be done in a way that sustains and regenerates resources. Here are a few real economy examples of current greenhouse gas emitting activities. Raising cattle, which releases methane, a gas that warms the planet even more than carbon dioxide. Using fluorinated gases in refrigeration systems. Clearing forests to make room for agriculture. Burning fossil fuels for heat, electricity, and mobility. Manufacturing chemicals, cement, and steel. We've built our economy post the 1800s Industrial Revolution on fossil fuels. As we've moved away from the gold standard, we've effectively replaced it with a fossil fuel standard. We even elevated the use of the US dollar as the global reserve currency through petrodollars, dollars paid to oil-producing countries for oil. There are careers in ensuring that environmental and social externalities are accounted for in the harm they cause through price signals and other economic tools. As an extension of this, carbon accounting in all of our operations, including financial ones, is a place of job growth. The third pillar is social cohesion and prosperity. Climate change is already causing massive social disruption and exacerbating existing inequalities. An estimated 140 million people will be displaced in the next 30 years due to climate change. As emissions continue to rise, the impacts from severe drought and flooding to wildfires cause conflict, increased poverty, and adverse health outcomes. Living near toxic facilities such as a coal plant or an incinerator is not only a sign of global warming, but as these facilities also emit mercury, arsenic, and lead, they are a direct health threat. There are a number of roles focused on achieving equity in climate change and ensuring that the solutions to climate change create opportunities for all and close social gaps. The last, but definitely not least pillar, is closely tied with the first three, and that is planning for future generations. Technically, we could identify and implement social, environmental, and economic solutions for today, but without considering the impacts on future generations. These may very well be false solutions that only create problems in the future. If we want a viable planet and economy for future generations, then we must actually reduce emissions, replacing polluting sources with zero emission sources. The careers in future thinking include climate modeling, future scenario planning of all sorts, including urban planning, and in general, the entire field of research and innovation. Sustainability is an all-encompassing with these four important tenets. And the good news is that one can make a meaningful difference in virtually every sector and role. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I would just like to wish everyone good health, strength, and peace of mind during these burdening times. My name is Monica Henderson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here today to advocate for an amazing organization by the name of Strong Women, Strong Girls. Their vision is for every girl and woman to realize their inner strength to dream and to do. I'm a college mentor for SWSG, and every week, along with my peers, I lead an after-school program for 3rd through 5th grade girls. Each session revolves around a strong female or femme role model, and together the girls learn about a positive lesson that role model represents and explore those themes in their own lives. We cover a diverse range of topics from anti-bullying to leadership, body positivity, race, disability, gender and educational equity, family structure, SES, mental health, just to name a few. So why am I here today? Why do I do what I do? To me, it's quite simple. I want to leave a legacy. Unfortunately, systemic change is a slow process. Thus, I feel that it's my duty to provide young girls with the tools that will enable them to move this country and this society forward. One of the only places I find hope these days is in the generations that will follow me. I want them to grow up in a society where they don't have to explain their worth, where their voices are never silenced, where they have control of their futures, and where there's seats at the table already waiting for them. And most importantly, that they know that if they have the knowledge, that they also have the power to recreate unjust systems. This should be a movement, not just moments a few hundred of Pittsburgh citizens share with each other. SWSG is pioneering the next wave of education. What if, along with learning equations and sentence structure and a Eurocentric education, all youth were also taught the principles of intersectional feminism, anti-racism, inclusion, and equity? Social resilience is the theme of today. The idea of coping with the stressors and adverse experiences of being marginalized in this society. But when I'm with these girls, I feel taken care of. Why? Because they pay attention, they are responsive, and they care. Their mini making doesn't exist in a vacuum. They go home and educate their caregivers. They go to school and educate their peers, and they grow up with these strong narratives. 97% of our girls, after mentoring, have an increased belief that they can make an impact on their community. Now, our name is Strong Women, Strong Girls, but we don't make strength. We don't give strength. Between our school-aged mentees, our college-aged mentors, and our professional leaders, we create a sisterhood. And in this sisterhood, we uncover the strength that we have. Women in femme, we already have a strong voice. We already have strength beyond measure. It just takes a supportive network to help amplify our voices and give power to our stories. Lastly, I would like to address a content area that our girls care about the most, and that is race. I've spent the last few months and days reminded and hurt about how little Black women are valued in this country. I begin mentoring very soon, and I will and have worked with a lot of girls who look like me. Representation is essential, something I wish I had growing up. And without it, it's hard to find a purpose or pride in yourself. At my mentoring sites with my girls, we talk about and celebrate the beauty of brown skin and the beauty of natural curls. We play Respect by Aretha Franklin like there's no tomorrow and sing at the top of our lungs. And we create a space full of security and love, and we will keep doing that. So within these girls, I see little Ruths, little Michelles, and little Kamalas, and they know they are valued. And the best part is that they learn the idols they read about, the people they find extraordinary, are in fact ordinary, that they were once in their shoes. So imagine you are standing in front of a room of big dreamers, and each little girl looks at their heroes as a fantasy and an unattainable goal. And what SWSG does is flip that narrative. I make sure that before I leave every semester of mentoring, I look at the girls and I say to them, there are heroes too in this room, and I'm looking right at them. So to all my young leaders out there, you are strong and I am proud of you. Thank you.
Angie Loiseau from Covestro. How are you?
Good to see you again. It's been a long time.
It has been a minute. Such a pleasure. And thank you so much for hosting us today. Everyone, we are so thrilled to have Leah Lizarrando, co-founder and CEO of 412 Food Rescue. And it is one of the fastest growing food recovery organizations in the U.S. since 2015. And I want to make sure I get my numbers right, Leah. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You and your team have rescued more than 62 million pounds of perfectly good food and have redirected it from the landfills to households, to people in need, which is just amazing. And you can imagine why we're so thrilled to have Leah today and have this conversation. So Leah, we're going to ask you a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about 412 Food Rescue as well as Food Rescue Heroes. Again, you are the co-founder and CEO of both organizations. How did it all begin? How exactly does it work? And also, what makes you and your organization so different from other food rescue organizations?
Yeah, so 412 Food Rescue was founded in 2015. And basically, in a nutshell, the easiest way to understand us would be, we're like the DoorDash of food rescue. And what that means is we take surplus food. So instead of food that we all order, it's surplus food from grocery stores, restaurants, events, universities, and we redirect it to nonprofits that serve families and individuals that are experiencing food insecurity. And so the way we do that is through this, army of drivers that are coordinated by an app, much like, you know, DoorDash coordinates all their drivers with an app or any delivery service. But the magic is also the fact that all of these drivers are just amazing volunteers.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I want to point out, you piloted all of this in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
How many cities are using the Food Rescue Heroes app?
Yeah, so
to create their own volunteer support.
Yes, so this app that 412 Food Rescue operates in Pittsburgh, but it is run by an app called Food Rescue Hero that we also created and that we launched in 2016. And in 2018, we started sharing this with other regions in the US and Canada, and it's now in 13 regions, you know, as close to us as Philly and Cleveland, and as, you know, far from us as Vancouver and Los Angeles. So it's been great, and it's really when we say, actually, so the total number is like a fast-moving ticker. We're at 65 or 68 million now. We were probably at 62 last week. So it's these 13 regions. The volunteers from these regions have rescued, you know, almost 70 million pounds of food.
That is amazing. And can you expand on that a little bit? How are you bringing more cities on board? And can you also tell us about Food Rescue University?
Yeah. So Food Rescue Hero is a technology platform that we license out to other food rescue nonprofits all over the world. So there's many 412 food rescues out there, except that maybe most of them are doing it through just texting or, you know, social media. And so they can't grow to, you know, the size that we are here in Pittsburgh. Like in Pittsburgh, we have about 13,000 people who have fully registered on the app. So every time we push, you know, a rescue, there's 13,000 people getting that notification. So if you can imagine, if you're doing it just, you know, not with an app, you can't really coordinate all of these moving vehicles like fairly efficiently. So these food rescue organizations all over license that app, and that's how they grow like we did in Pittsburgh.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And let's touch on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for a second. No poverty, zero hunger.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what impact your organization is having on these goals, and how many goals are you actually touching and impacting?
Right. So we impact 3 SDGs directly. So the first one is SDG 12, specifically SDG 12.3, which is, and that goal is, SDG 12 is responsible production and consumption. The target 12.3 is to cut food waste by 50% by 2030. So that's the first thing that we directly affect. And then SDG 2 is zero hunger, and then SDG 13 is climate action, because food waste is the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. So as we rescue food and alleviate hunger, cumulatively we're also alleviating greenhouse gas emissions. And so with that in mind, we've set the goal of 100 cities by 2030 for the Food Rescue Hero app to be in tracking, because the SDGs, of course, you know, have 2030 as their target.
That's great. That's great. Are you guys catching all that? This is all just amazing. And you are just a few years old.
We are going on our 7th year, yes.
That is amazing. That is truly amazing. And as a final thought, what advice or challenge do you have for our audience today, or high school students watching us?
The story that I love the most is whenever someone asks me, or, you know, whenever we have a conversation with someone about what we do, you know, one of the first reactions I always get is, I've always thought of doing that. I mean, thank God someone's doing that. You know, I've always thought about all of this wasted food. And then people ask me, look, how did you do it? Why did you do it? And there's no real special sauce. And what I want everyone to know is that, you know, oftentimes we're all thinking about the same problems. So it's really about just doing something about it. And, you know, when we started, we didn't know that it would grow this fast. We didn't know that we would be in 20 cities by the end of this year. It was always just evolving, and we were just taking everything step by step. But the most important step is the first step, is to make the decision to just do it.
Such amazing advice. Thank you, Leah, for sharing that with us. And thank you so much for being with us today at Covestro's Think 30 Youthquake.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Hey Kim, it's Ben Renwick. I'm so thankful that you're here today as part of our Think 30 event, Youthquake. So we're glad to have you here today. Everybody, this is Kim Lucas. She is the acting director for the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. And what that means essentially is she is responsible for the City of Pittsburgh and its people and getting them from place to place. And so recently the City of Pittsburgh talked about a mobility app called Move PGH, one of the nation's only mobility apps that's out there. And so that's why we wanted to pull Kim in here today to talk about that. And so Kim, can you talk about the initiative a little bit? Can you talk about the app, kind of the idea of how it originated?
Absolutely. So Move PGH is the brand for our mobility program that is bringing together a number of transportation services into one place, literally at your fingertips. We knew that with having scooters and bikes and trains and buses, that it was really hard for people to understand exactly how to access each of those modes. And so we worked with Transit, who is the app provider, as well as the industry, to bring all those modes together into one and to make it a seamless experience for residents and visitors of Pittsburgh.
That's awesome. So you talked about different organizations that are part of this. So it wasn't just the city who did this itself. Can you talk about the importance of, the collaboration of different organizations that help make the app possible?
Absolutely. So Move PGH is the new name for something that had previously been referred to as the Pittsburgh Mobility Collaborative. The whole point of the initiative was that instead of these different providers kind of doing their own thing independently and coming to the city and telling us what they wanted to do all by themselves, we worked with them. We said, hey industry, we want a bunch of you to come together because we ultimately want to introduce scooters like what you see behind me and other modes into our city. And instead of what you see in some other places where those are done all by themselves and independently and individually, and then you have to have 10 different apps on your phone to access them, we wanted to make it easy for the customer so that mobility is something that everybody can get around and use without too many challenges.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think the city could have done that by itself?
I think the city did do it by saying, hey, industry, we want to work together with you.
Yeah.
And so while the transit app that is our platform exists internationally, the fact that we multiple years ago said, industry, please come together, work with us, that's what really sets us apart from every other city that has this going for it.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. So I want to talk about the three pillars of sustainability real quick. Why should mobility be focused on, or why is it addressed from all three of the pillars, from social, from environmental, from economic equity? And can you also share about the sustainable development goals? How are those also impacting Move PGH?
Every single person consumes mobility, even if you don't leave your house, somebody is bringing goods and services to you. And to do that, they have to get there, whether it's by car, by public transportation, maybe by walking or biking. Some of those modes have better environmental implications than others. If you drive your car, perhaps you're emitting things into the air that are bad to breathe. If you're riding your bike, you might be burning calories and you're taking up less space than a car. And when you're sharing on public transportation, you're doing all of those wonderful things as well. And so really, transportation is one of the industries that is the worst for our environment in terms of emitting carbon dioxide. And so our goal is to introduce other modes to the automobile and things that don't pollute as much so that people can get around. Not only are we helping people get around better because not everybody can afford a car, not everybody wants to drive. And so by introducing things like electric scooters, shared bicycles, we break down the barriers to getting from point A to point B. And by co-locating them, this is very strategic and intentional that we've got the scooters next to the bikes next to the train station, because we know you may not want to take any single one of these modes for your entire trip. And many people are taking a scooter to get to the train, to get to a bus, to get to where they need to go. And so through our app and through our co-location in our mobility hubs, we're making it easier for people to get around without their cars.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I asked about the sustainable development goals as well. Can you share maybe just a couple that are being impacted by the Move PGH app?
Absolutely. So for every single trip that someone takes not in a car, they are reducing air pollution and reducing the emissions. As you can see, some of these assets behind me are solar powered. The bikes are not even plugged into the grid to get the computer in the station working. While these are plugged into the grid, compared to an automobile or something else, they are taking very small amounts of electricity. We have had in about 3 months of service almost 300,000 trips on these scooters. And every time someone chooses to take a scooter or a bike or to walk, that's freeing up space in our roadway for other users like that truck who don't have the option to take a bike to deliver their goods. Not today anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. So I see you have your phone. Can you show the app real quick?
Absolutely.
Just to do like a 30-second walkthrough.
Absolutely.
So if we want to bring it up to the camera so they can actually see what's going on here.
So Move PGH is integrated into the Transit app. And as you can see here, when you pull up the Transit app, it shows you through these different bubbles all the different options that you have available to you. We know that one of the main barriers to taking a mode other than your car is not knowing where or how much those modes are. And so by physically showing where these modes are and giving you information, and in some instances, even enabling you to rent that scooter or that bike or buy your fare payment for the T or the bus, that's breaking down barriers. And that's our goal as a Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, is providing the physical mobility for the social and economic mobility of our residents.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, great. Hey, just one last question for you. For the viewers who are watching here today, there's a lot of young folks who are tuning in. Can you give them some inspiring words of how they're moving towards improving efforts in sustainability and in climate?
It's so hard, especially in this day and age, to really recognize the impact that your individual choices can make. You know, one single trip to the grocery store, one single trip to your school or to your place of employment doesn't seem like it's doing much for air quality or public health, but it's the collection of all those. It's the combination of all of these trips that we all take every single day. And so by finding little ways to make improvements, whether it's in how you get around, whether it's how you eat, whether it's how you dispose of your waste, all of those really do add up. And so there's the little efforts and their collective impact, and then there's the big efforts. Get involved, vote, look at the real impacts of different policies and programs that you have that might be coming to your community, and learn about them. And to the extent that you don't think that they're going to do the greater good for your community, try to raise your voice to change it.
That's awesome. Kim, thanks so much for joining us here today. Glad you could be part of the event, and until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Christine. It's Cheyenne Schenkel from Covestro. Welcome to Think 30 Youthquake.
Hi, Cheyenne.
Youthquakers, this is Christine Galeb, and she's coming to us from Houston, Texas. Christine is Senior Director of Programs at the ION, which is a pretty new initiative designed to build economic resiliency and opportunities for Houston and all of its residents. Wow, that's a bold mission, Christine. Can you please tell us all about it? What it is, how it works, and what you've accomplished so far?
Sure, Cheyenne, that's such a great question, and there's so many parts to it, and I'll break it down for us. The ION is effectively accelerating innovation and connecting communities. So what do I mean by that? Well, accelerating innovation, we're trying to find faster ways to bring all of Houston's residents on board to where they can participate in the innovation economy. And then connecting communities. We believe the way to do that is to connect different types of communities, our startups, our entrepreneurs, our academic partner network members, our community members, our corporate partners, and our investors.
So that's awesome. Please tell us more about the ION district. What will it mean for the city, businesses, education, cultural institutions, and just plain everyday people? What kind of programming do you offer?
I love those questions, and I'll answer them in the following ways. So the ION district is a 16-acre innovation district in Houston, Texas, and the ION is the building that anchors that district. So it's kind of like the capital of the ION district. And when we think about kind of creativity, innovation, I know you asked about the different programs. I'll talk about that in just a second. We think about people coming together in a place, that's the ION building and the ION district, coming together and meeting all types of people, forming those connections with mentors, with corporate partners, whereas someone who might have an idea for a startup, or maybe they have a ton of ideas for a startup, but they don't necessarily know how to take their next steps. Maybe they need workforce development and training regarding the tech skills that are relevant for the world that we live in today, the software engineering, the data science skills. We want you to come to the ION. The district then becomes this place where all these connections happen. It's urban, it's walkable. You can come and you can park your car in one place and spend the whole day walking around the whole district, place to place. It's a mixed use district that is designed to be pedestrian friendly. And if you're from Houston, if you've spent any time in Houston, you know that Houston is traditionally a car city. We have a lot of highways here. So it's a big deal to have that type of pedestrian friendly space available. Now, you did ask about what type of programming we offer, and it's numerous. We have certain events that we call gateway events that are designed to intake participants no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey. So maybe you've got that idea for a startup. Well, we have an event for you, how to start a startup. And you can come in with no prior knowledge and take that and participate in that event. We also have accelerator programs as part of our accelerator hub. So if you have a product, if you've got a minimum viable product and you're ready for that next stage, you can apply to join our accelerator programs. All of our programs are on our website, ionhouston.com. We've got workforce development programs I mentioned earlier. If you're seeking those software engineering or data science skills, or maybe digital skills, user design, all these types of programs we offer at the ION. We also have an ION academic network. So anyone of students, faculty, staff at Houston's 2- and 4-year institutions can come in and have events at the ION. One example of these events is How Things Work. So you might have heard, maybe you want to be an engineer, or you might have heard, well, maybe aerospace is for me. You can come to our event at the ION and learn from the experts. What really is aerospace? How does it really work? We also have another event called Family Tech Night. So whether you're 6 years old, 7 years old, 60 years old, or 70 years old, that event, Family Tech Night, is a great chance for you to come and learn tech literacy. So maybe you've heard words such as data science before, or cybersecurity, and you're not quite sure what those mean. You can come to Family Tech Night and build those literacy building blocks to help you learn the language of tech and then apply for those tech jobs.
It sounds like you have a really large area of impact. So going back to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which address social, environmental, and economic justice, what impact is your work having on these areas, and how many goals do you touch?
I think that's such a great question. And I immediately want to say we touch all of the SDGs, right? I think if I had to kind of pick a few, I'd pick sustainable cities. I think that's goal number 11 off the top of my head. But sustainable cities, this notion that we're building inclusive urban environments, connecting communities from our mission and vision statement here, bringing all types of people together with a focus on sustainability. Right, we've experienced different types of events over the years, from Hurricane Harvey to most recently the freeze event in February, where we have to figure out how we engage with resilience a little bit in more diverse ways. So that's one big goal that comes to mind.
That's awesome. So one last question. It's something that we're asking all of our speakers. What advice do you have for the young people listening today who want to be change makers themselves, just like you and your work?
I love that question. And I think my biggest piece of advice is keep asking questions. So I have so much more advice I want to give. Maybe I'll give it all. Keep asking questions. Keep looking at the status quo and saying, why is this the way it is? Because that will help you peel back the layers to create a world that is not just different, but better. We need more people like that in our world, who are seriously and very intentionally looking at their world and saying, how did this come to be? Why is this the way it is? And then the second piece of advice, I know you said one, but two, find a mentor who can help you along the way, who can guide you, and then who can give you that constructive feedback, because we all need feedback. So being able to find a mentor to get that feedback, to take our ideas to the next level. Those would be my two pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's great advice, and definitely some things I can connect to, and great advice for everyone listening today to keep in mind as they move forward with their interests and their careers. So I want to thank you for being with us at Youthquake. It was really great talking to you today.
Well, thank you so much, Cheyenne. This has been great. And to all of our viewers, thank you all for tuning in. Take care, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed today's session. I want to thank Marilyn, Monica, Leah, Kim, and Christine for their amazing work, and also my colleagues, Ben, Ange, and Cheyenne, for leading the conversations. You'll be seeing them again in sessions 2 and 3. Until then, thanks to all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.